all right, come on. I'm tired. It should be the end of the year already. I'm just ready to get list week done so I can just, relax a little bit. So as you already know, it's list week, final list video. Favorite 50 albums of 2015. Not really much else to say. Let's go!
Hey, hey, hey! Hey, hey, hey! Merry Christmas, everybody!
Why must you always stand in the way of progress?
Merry Christmas, Anthony! Did you give me a present this year?
Honestly, I did not get you anything this year.
Oh.
Well, I mean, there is one thing. There's someone who watches the show. His name is Matt Rollins, and he passed me a copy of one of my favorite David Byrne records. Him and Brian Eno come together on My Life in the Bush of Ghosts. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And he wrote this lovely letter over here talking about how he loves the show, and he also added a little present for you in here. So,
whoa! Hey, give me that! Oh my god! Oh my god! It can't be! It can't be!
Bitch.
I guess my favorite soundtrack on CD! Shrek!
Well, I'm glad you like it because it's all you're gonna get for this year. Let's get right into this list over here. Top 50 albums of the year. Woo! All right, we are kicking off the list with a few records that did not make it onto my love list this year. We're just short of making it onto it, but grew on me a little bit and made it into my top 50. So kicking it off with a death metal record, maybe the most gruesome and disgusting death metal record you will lay ears on this year, Pissgrave's Suicide Euphoria. At number 49, we have Dope Body with Kunk, then Tame Impala with Currents. Following that up is the new Neon Indian album, VEGA International Night School, and then Billy Woods with his brief and conceptual Today I Wrote Nothing. Okay, I'm going to be speeding through this list until we get to the halfway point and then doing a little bit more description on some of the records in this list. At 45, we have Colin Stetson and Sarah Neufeld with Never Were the Way She Was, an interesting little collaborative experimental instrumental music album. Young Fathers with White Men Are Black Men Too. Zeus with Z. Napalm Death returns with a gritty grindcore installment. Apex Predator, Easy Meat. And at 41, it is Mr. Joey Badass with his full-length commercial debut, Before the Money. At number 40, it is Cattle Decapitation with the Anthropocene Extinction. 39, The Game with the documentary 2.5. At 38, it's Ken Mode with Success. 37, Hop Along with Painted Shut. And at 36, the Underachievers with their conceptual Evermore Art of Duality double album. At 35, we have Unknown Mortal Orchestra with Multi-Love. At 34, we have Panopticon with Autumn Eternal. 33, Lianne Havas with Blood. At 32, Czarface with Every Hero Needs a Villain. And at 31, Alabama Shakes with Sound and Color. At 30, we have Jeff Rosenstock with the snarky and punky We Cool. Then Sleaford Mods with Key Markets. Very, I guess, sarcastic and funny and mean-spirited album this is, though not mean to everyone. And at 28, we have Little Ugly Mane with the Large and In Charge album compilation Third Side of Tape. 27, Milo with So the Flies Don't Come. 26, Sophie with Product. And at 25, one of the most mind-bending, strange, and interesting auditory experiences I had this year, Ash Kusha with Good. Okay, getting deeper into the list, Joanna Newsom returns with a new record on number 24. Very conceptual, very interesting lyrics on this thing, as well as some, I guess, some musical changes as well. A little more piano on this thing than usual, but still a beautiful and captivating album. At 23, we have the even more conceptual Mountain Goats with Beat the Champ. This is an album of interesting, I guess, indie folk, indie rock tunes that are all about professional wrestling. At number 22, it's Drake with his really great mixtape that I enjoyed a lot this year. If you're reading this, it's too late. And at number 21, Chelsea Wolfe with her incredibly sludgy, heavy, metallic, and brooding full-length album, Abyss. At number 20, we have Travis Scott with his latest full-length LP, which blew me out of the water, surprised me. Did not anticipate enjoying this record as much as I did, but I have been coming back to it again and again and again this year. I just think it's well produced. I think it's very colorful production. I think it's just an artsy approach to that low down and dirty trap and Atlantis sound that we're hearing so prevalently in hip-hop right now. And then at 19, I have to give it to Destroyer for Poison Season. Dan Behar and company are back with a very theatrical and poetic rock album this time around. Bit of a return to form, but sounds like it would work so much better on a brightly lit stage. And then at 18, I have to give it to Algiers for their self-titled full-length LP. Loving this dark kind of politically conscious post-punk sound that they're bringing on this thing. Thought it was fantastic. At number 17, a sludge metal record that really was a go-to for me at the gym this year. Listened to this record repeatedly as I was pumping iron. I'm talking about High on Fire with Luminiferous. Then at 16, it is Father John Misty with the very romantic I Love You, Honey Bear. Great set of songs on this LP. Really beautiful instrumentation, funny, snarky lyrics as well. His amazing, just hilarious lyrics coming through on a lot of these tracks. And then I got to give it to something a little weirder, something a little more on the fringe, One O Tricks Point Never at 15 with Garden of Delete. And going further down that experimental abyss is Prurient at number 14 with Frozen Niagara Falls. Even more tortured at number 13 is the new Leviathan album, Scar-Sighted, a hellish, traumatizing black metal record that you should hear if you haven't already. Then at 12, one of my favorite mixtapes of the year, it's Injury Reserve with Live at the Dentist's Office. And 11, another record I found myself returning to a lot this year, and I ended up enjoying it more than I thought I was going to. Even though I liked it in the review, it definitely grew on me a little bit. I will say I loved Aught's latest full-length LP, Sun Coming Down. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, at the top 10. Kicking off the top 10 is a metal record, a lean, well put together metal album with great songwriting, great guitar playing, overall some pretty good production as well. And it came out very late in the year. It was kind of like they just threw a three-pointer. It was like bam, bam, as the clock was running out. Whoa, whoa, it's a great record. I'm talking about Baroness with Purple. Very impressed with this album. Been listening to it, been returning to it repeatedly since it released just a few weeks ago. Really impressed with this record. I think the band kicked ass this time around. Kicked ass. And then I have to give it to another record that grew on me this year. The new Everything Everything album, Get to Heaven. This record, I've been playing this thing a lot, man. For me, this is like the future of pop music. Although pop music and rock music will probably not sound like this 5 or 10 years from now. It'll probably be, I don't know. It'll probably sound like the new Miley Cyrus album or something like that. But if we were to live in an ideal future, I think more groups would be embracing the very progressive and very colorful sonic and instrumental aspects of this record. At number 8, a really off-the-wall, obnoxious, and very strange rock album. It is a comeback album. It's a record that I thought would be a little higher on my list, but there were a few albums here that really passed it out in terms of favorability, but I do have to give it to the Pop Group for their latest full-length LP, Citizen Zombie, yeah! But inching past this LP is the new Bjork album, Volnakira. Bjork really came through on this LP, returned to a slightly older sound of hers. Vespertine, the kind of Baroque and art pop elements of that album show up here as well. And as some of you may already know, that is my favorite Bjork album. So it's kind of cool to see her embracing that sound once again, but also sad because this is a breakup album, and a really intense one at that if you pay some pretty direct attention to the lyrics on this thing. And inching past this LP, at number 6 is the new Clarence Clarity album, Know Now. This is one of the weirdest records I've heard this year, but it's also one of the catchiest records I've heard this year at the same time. This thing is an experimental pop onion that I just peel more and more layers past every single time I listen to it. Every time I hear this thing, I mean, not only do I enjoy the very catchy and very sweet songs at the core of a lot of these tracks more and more, but I'm just hearing new things and just learning new things about this album. Even in a conversation I had with this guy during an interview, I feel like I feel like the album is still very mystical to me. It's like you can't pull the veil back on this thing because there's a veil behind a veil behind a veil behind a veil. But in a really cool way, not necessarily in a frustrating way or anything like that. So going further up the list, number 5, top 5 right now, Julia Holter, Have You in My Wilderness. Wonderful, beautiful, heavenly, baroque, and dream pop on this thing. Stunningly gorgeous, effervescent. I can't really say enough nice things about this record. It's easily the prettiest album I've heard in 2015, and that's why it's so high up on this list. It's a Parita! At number 4, I'm going to give it to the occult, to the extravagant, to the inspiring new Ghost album, Melior, a hell of a metal record this year. I think Ghost really came through. They gave me the album that I wanted their second album to be this time around. This thing, I just really don't have that many complaints about it. The songwriting is solid, the production is fantastic, the performances are great, the guitar tones are good, and it just really kind of gave me this sense that I was in a totally different world. I was in Ghost's world this time around. It wasn't just simply like I was listening to a band with their first record or with their second record. I was in the middle of this dark, satanic mass ritual, and I'm loving it. At number 3, we have to give it to the 3-hour, the 3-part, the triple album, the jazz record of the year, the new Kamasi Washington album, and the next step, the epic. All I have to say about this record is what I first had to say when I listened to this album all the way through, and that is, yes, yes, yes. At number 2 in the list, I gotta give it to my dudes, Death Grips, for completing the Powers That Be double album with the second half, Jenny Death, which a lot of people were highly anticipating and actually lived up to the hype. Hilariously enough, one of the most aggressive releases in their discography right there, and pairing it with the first half of the record, they're just a great combination, and just like so many tracks of experimental, loud, aggressive, mind-bending hip-hop and rock and electronic music. I mean, Death Grips, they just continue to blur so many borders with their music while also referencing the roots and the basics of hip-hop, of punk rock. So yeah, that's number 2, and I think you guys can already guess what was number 1. I gave this album an incredibly positive review, incredibly high score, and it's my most watched review of this year, and I think a lot of you guys appreciate this album the same way that I do. You know, I love the concept of this record, I love the story of this record, the music and the production on this record are amazing. Kendrick Lamar, To Pimp a Butterfly. Kendrick really outdid himself on this album. I think this record, in a lot of ways, mirrors Good Kid, Mad City in that it is a personal story of growth and making the right choices, but it just kind of occurs during another chapter of Kendrick's life. We're no longer that young Kendrick sort of growing up in Compton. We're now this older Kendrick sort of navigating his way morally through this music industry of excess and people looking to kind of take advantage of you in every direction, and also kind of this struggle of trying to be this star but also trying to be a dependable, reliable, functioning, emotionally healthy person. And these personal struggles are also used to play out and shed some light on some larger social issues as well, which is also part of what makes this record so powerful. It's just a really great record, and at this point I can't really say anything that I haven't already said in my review, which I will link down there in the description along with reviews to every other one of these albums. And I can't thank you guys enough for watching these reviews, hanging with me for this past year.
But Andy, what about my mixtape? You forgot my mixtape.
Okay. Here's a list. The top 1 Cal Chuchesta mixtapes of the year.
Oh boy, who's gonna get it? Who's gonna get the number 1?
Okay, at number 1, we have Cal Chuchesta with the new Classic, number one on the list, the best Calchuchesta mixtape that came out this year.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I can't believe it! I can't believe it! This is an honor. This is such an honor. I want to thank my mom. I want to thank my dad. I want to thank Dad. I want to thank Rock and Roll.
Musician, I'm done. Last video of 2015. Oh, I'm gonna go wrap some Christmas presents and take a nap. Forever.